I'd like to welcome each and every one of you to this afternoon's agenda meeting where we will review the action items that will be formally addressed next Tuesday evening, February 7th at 6 p.m. right here at City Hall. Had a few days of cold spells with a little bit of precipitation, and I think we fared pretty good so far, and hopefully we'll make it through today and be off to a wonderful weekend. So at this time, I'll call upon our city manager, Mr. Bill Burrow, for a review of those action items.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. Your first item on your consent agenda will be Resolution R2313, a resolution confirming the appointment of Cheryl Batts to the Hot Springs Housing Authority Board of Commissioners, and our city clerk, Harmony Morrissey, will present.
Thank you. The Board of Commissioners for the Housing Authority consists of 5 commissioners. Federal law requires that the membership of that board contain one member who is directly assisted by the authority's federal housing program. Directly assisted is defined by either being a public housing resident or appearing on the lease, or being a recipient of assistance of the authority's Housing Choice Voucher Program. The directly assisted position was vacated by Dr. Charlene Clay before the end of that term, which expires on August 16th of 2026. At their November 21st, 22 meeting, the Board of Commissioners of the Housing Authority voted unanimously to approve Ms. Cheryl Batts to serve in this directly assisted position that was vacated by Dr. Clay. Ms. Batts does qualify for the position, and the Board of Directors must ratify this appointment.
Very good. Any questions of Harmony?
Next item is Resolution R2314, a resolution approving the appointment of Director Phyllis Beard to the Advertising and Promotion Commission. Again, Ms. Morrissey.
Thank you. In accordance with state law, the Advertising and Promotion Commission must have 2 members of the governing body of the municipality to serve as part of the 7-member commission. The A&P Commission position number 2 was previously held by Director Lane Jones, and that expired on December 31st of 2022. Director Phyllis Beard is the only director who applied for this open position. It's a 4-year term, and the Board of Directors is required to ratify this appointment.
Very good. Any questions of Harmony on this item? Thank you.
Next, we have Resolution R2315, a resolution approving the purchase of a T86 T4 Bobcat compact track loader with attachments from Clark Equipment Company, doing business as Bobcat Company, pursuant to the Cooperative Purchasing Program through Sourcewell, in the amount of $147,716.61, and our Public Works Director, Ron Seavright, will present.
This new piece of equipment will mainly be used for supporting and restoring asphalt. It will come with a milling attachment for the skid steer, which will allow us to reclaim asphalt and sweep it up instead of having to remove and replace. Also can be used for many different processes as far as snow removal, urban forestry. This machine actually came in under budget.
Very good. Any questions? Thank you.
Next, we have Resolution R2316, a resolution approving the purchase of playground equipment for Linden Park pursuant to the state-approved NASPO Value Point contract for certain park and recreation equipment in the amount of $66,306.86, and our Parks and Trails Director, Anthony Whittington, will present the item.
Thank you. This is to approve a resolution authorizing the purchase of a playground for Linden Park, which will be a 5 to 12-year-old age group playground. We currently have a toddler playground and some chin-up bar areas, but this will be directly south of the toddler playground and add a 5 to 12-year-old playground at Linden. This will be using the $66,306.96 in community development block grant funds. This project actually came in under what we had allocated, so this will be looks like a spring to late to summer installation of this playground equipment.
Very good. Any questions of Anthony? Thank you, Anthony.
Next, we have Resolution R2317, a resolution approving the funding for the contract of obligation with the Arkansas Department of Energy and Environment Division of Environmental Quality, DEQ, to provide financial assurance for the permit of the Hot Springs Transfer Station for 2023. And our Solid Waste Director, Mike Mundell, will speak on the item.
Thank you. in order for us to retain the permit that we have to operate the transfer station through the state, we have to provide them with financial assurance that we're able to pay for the closure of that facility should it come to that at some point. What this resolution is for is to ensure that we have the funding through the contract of obligation with the state of $60,750 to meet those closure requirements.
Any questions of Mike? Thank you.
Next, Resolution R2318, a resolution extending a contract for services with the Hot Springs Advertising and Promotion Commission to support youth programs at Majestic Park. Mayor, I'll take this one, and we do have Derek Phillips in the room with us from, he's the manager of the Majestic Park. This is a contract for service that we had last year and previously held the same type of contract of service with the Boys and Girls Club when they operated a baseball program. This is in the amount of $75,000, and be glad to answer any questions, or if you have any questions for Mr. Phillips, he's here as well.
Any questions of Derek or Bill? The unveiling of the Babe Ruth statue, is this Friday or?
It's Monday, right?
Monday.
That's correct. The statue unveiling will be Monday morning at 10:30. And we're excited about that. Hope you all are able to attend.
Did you order up some good weather?
We did, and it's finally going to come in around Saturday or Sunday maybe and stay there through probably Tuesday. So we're looking pretty good for that right now.
You got a big
We'll have
tournament
a
tomorrow.
Dugan Invitational there as well over the weekend. If you want to come check out what's going on at the park, should be a busy weekend there. We've got 18 college teams in town this weekend, so it should be a good weekend for having people in our city. And so we're excited about that as well.
Derek, y'all going to be able to start tomorrow?
No, we've made some adjustments because we have teams coming from Kansas, Oklahoma, and Missouri. We've scrapped tomorrow and start Friday at 1 o'clock, and then we did push 2 games to Monday after the Babe Ruth statue unveiling.
Very good.
You said that was Monday at 10:30?
The statue unveiling, yes ma'am, is Monday at 10:30 there at Majestic Park.
And this item was included in the 2023 budget.
Very good.
All right, thank you so much.
Next, your first item under new business is Resolution R2319, a resolution authorizing the reimbursement of salaries and benefit expenditures from the American Rescue Plan Act funds and for other purposes, and Karen Scott will handle this item, our finance director.
Thank you. As you know, the city received total ARPA funding in the amount of $11,370,797 last year. The board previously designated $10 million of that amount to be utilized by the city for lost revenue replacement. In 2022, we expended $3.26 million of those funds. We proposed to transfer the balance of $6.739 million to the general fund to reimburse salaries and benefits expenditures in the future. The ARPA rules allow the expenditure of these funds for any lawful government purpose. These funds would be restricted and would only be used after specific city board approval and budget amendment. Staff recommends authorizing the transfer of ARPA funds to the general fund to reimburse future salaries and benefits expenditures.
Any questions of Karen?
Mayor, I will say there will continue to be about 1.2 million that will be left in those ARPA funds, and those have specific uses that we need to basically shoehorn those into. There's about 4 or 5 different areas that those funds could be spent. Those particular funds have to be identified by 2024 and spent by the end of 2026.
Very good. Thank you.
Next, we have Resolution R2320, a resolution granting a short-term residential rental special use permit for 228 Little John Trail. And our Planning and Development Director, Ms. Selman, will present this item.
Thank you. Good afternoon. This is an appeal from the decision of the Board of Adjustments issuance of a special use permit for short-term residential rental, and it is a quasi-judicial item. Hot Springs Code requires special use permit approval as a prerequisite to short-term residential rental license application for residential zones District 1, R1, 2, 3, 4A, and L. Hot Springs Code requires an applicant for a special use permit to provide evidence of a city certificate of occupancy report, a dimension site plan, and a floor plan, as well as remittance of the $475 fee. The owners of 228 Little John Trail provided the required documentation and the fee, and the special use permit was approved by the planning director. The planning director's decision was appealed by neighbors to the Board of Zoning Adjustment, the BZA. Following public notice of that approval, neighbors appealed BZA's special use permit approval for Board of Directors consideration. No off-street parking was required at the time that home was constructed. It was built while it was in unincorporated Garland County prior to its annexation to Hot Springs. It is a 4-bedroom home with an overnight maximum occupancy of 10. And it is located in District Number 5.
Any questions of Kathy? Thank you.
Next, we have Resolution R2321, a resolution granting a short-term residential rental special use permit for 107 Forest Park Place. And again, Ms. Selman.
Thank you. This appeal also is from the decision of the Board of Adjustments issuance of a special use permit for short-term residential rental. It is a quasi-judicial item. Again, that special use permit is a prerequisite to any application for short-term residential rental license in the residential zone districts. 107 Forest Park Place owners provided the required documentation and fee, and the special use permit was approved by the planning director. The planning director's decision was appealed by neighbors to the Board of Zoning Adjustment. Following public notice of that approval, neighbors appealed BZA's special use permit approval for the Board of Directors consideration. No off-street parking was required at this home as it was constructed in 1940 prior to the city's off-street parking requirement. This is a 2-bedroom home with a maximum occupancy overnight of 6, and it is located in District Number 2.
Thank you. Any questions of Kathy? Brian, you want to again review our
Yes, sir.
officer, what we can and can't do?
Yes, sir. Much like the matter that you handled at your last meeting, this is quasi-judicial, and so forth. There is no ex parte communication with any parties, whether it's the property owner, the applicant, the appellant. Keep your decisions to what you hear before your meeting and your hearing. Try not to let any outside factors affect your decision other than what you hear here.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. If you have any questions, refer to your memo that you received last month, and if you have any further questions, feel free to call or come by and we'll go over it together.
Mayor, I have one question. Brian, this will be, when this comes to the board, this will be a vote for, will affirm
Yes, sir.
the
These,
special use permit?
any land use matters come to you in the affirmative, and so the application is essentially what you're making a decision upon. So a yes would approve the application, a no would deny it.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we have Resolution R2322, a resolution approving a change order to contract number 2 with Belt Construction, Inc. for the raw water supply transmission pipeline at the intake site as part of the Lake Ouachita Water Treatment Supply Project. This contract or change order is in the amount of $1,251,194. And our project manager, Todd Pillar, is here to present the item.
Thank you and good afternoon. This is for our 48-inch raw water connector pipe. Staff postponed this until we had the 2022 water bond issue approved by the board. and I believe we got the funds yesterday, so that's all good. This 48-inch connector pipe takes where the tunneling contract that Michael's Trenchless is doing right now at the south portal of the tunnel down to Brady Mountain Dam Road, where contract 1 stopped. And Belt Construction constructed contract 1, and they finished in August of 2021. And Belt Construction is currently under contract constructing contract 2. We want to award this project now because of the 48-inch steel pipe delivery time. And when Michaels gets done with the tunnel, hopefully in July of this year, the pipe will be here. And Belt Construction has said it will take them 45 days to complete the raw water connector, which means staff's goal is to have water flowing from Lake Washita to our existing Washita water treatment plant by the end of the year. And of course, this will be funded out of the 2022 Water Bond Fund.
Very good. Any questions? Thank you.
Next item is your first ordinance of the evening. It's ordinance O-2302, an ordinance waiving competitive bidding and approving the procurement of certain goods and services for upgrades to the Headworks International bar screen at the Hot Springs Creek Sewage Pumping Station from Instrument Supply Incorporated. The amount of the bar screen is $247,663.67. And again, Mr. Pillar.
Thank you again. The existing Headworks screen, as our city attorney Brian mentioned, has reached the end of its serviceable life. It's been there since, 50 years ago. And we're going to do mechanical and electrical upgrades to it. And Headworks is going to come get the screen, take it to Houston, Texas, refurbish it, upgrade it, redo it, bring it back, and then provide startup services after it's reinstalled. As you can imagine, it's a specialty item that has a slot to fit in at the existing Hot Springs Creek pump station. So staff wanted to upgrade it because we're upgrading the pumps and the valves and the piping also at the station, and other board action requests I'll bring to you later. And we're also adding SCADA to it so that the staff can remotely see the alarm functions on the screen remotely. Instrument Supply is the sole source distributor for Headworks, and their purchase order, as Bill mentioned, would be in the amount of $247,663.67. This includes all freight, all sales tax, and also they gave us a $2,800 credit for the service technician that came up from Houston to evaluate the screen. So the $247,663.67 is the net of all those. And it will be funded out of the 2023 board-approved sewer lift budget account.
Very good. Any questions on this item?
I have one.
Yeah, Steve?
Thank you, Mayor. They're going to send this to Houston, refurbish it. What are we going to do in the interim?
Nothing.
Nothing. So
We have bar screens at the plant itself.
Oh, yeah.
So what comes through, we'll catch that at the plant until this
Okay.
bar screen comes
that
back
was
to
my
the pump
point. This is
station.
going to be out of service. What's going to take its
The
place?
pump station will continue to be in service, but anything that needs to be captured with this bar screen will be captured at the plant at those bar screens.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks, Bill. That's exactly correct.
Director? Garcia, go ahead.
Thank you. Could you include in our packet how long this refurbishment will extend the life of this?
I can. I'll put that in the bar.
Should be
Thank
another 50
you.
years.
Yeah, it should be another 50 years,
Oh.
but I'll add
Well,
that.
I didn't hear it said, so I wanted to ask if that could be included. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, I'll do that.
Any further questions? Thank you.
Next, we have ordinance O-2303, an ordinance adopting the International Property Maintenance Code 2021 edition. amending and repealing certain ordinances and for other purposes, and our chief building official, Mike Scott, will present this item.
Thank you. The International Property Maintenance Code was a blueprint used to create Title 17 way back in the day before I even worked here. And that now is called the Hot Springs Property Maintenance Code, what it's currently called. The City of Hot Springs desires to adopt the International Property Maintenance Code with additions, deletions, and revisions. This is an example of the International Property Maintenance Code. And if you'll see, our Title 17 was about this thick. It was actually word for word sections right out of this book. What's nice about it, when we can adopt this, these fire codes say property maintenance code section it's a reference, and so they cross-reference each other, and that's the biggest benefit of adopting, international property maintenance codes and all the international codes. They reference each other and they blend together. Any questions?
Any questions of Mike? Thank you. Director Garcia?
Yes, for this item and the next item, if there's some type of significant change, could that be summarized in our packets?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'll get with the fire chief, and if we find something that's significant, I'll add that in there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Next item is ordinance O-2304, an ordinance adopting the Arkansas Fire Prevention Code, volumes 1, 2, and 3 of the 2021 additions and certain amendments and for other purposes. And again, Mr. Scott, and we also have our chief and fire marshal in the audience if you have questions for them as well. Mike?
Thank you. The State Fire Marshal of the State of Arkansas has adopted the 2021 Arkansas Fire Prevention Codes as of January 1 of this year from the International Code Council. Volume 1 is the fire code. This is an example of that book. Volume 2 is the building code. This is an example of that book. And volume 3 is the residential code, and this is an example of that book. And that's what Bill referred to, volumes 1, 2, and 3. These new codes address new technologies and updates from the current codes. The State Fire Marshal and a 40-person committee reviewed these new codes and made changes more specific to Arkansas. By adopting the current state additions, the City of Hot Springs will comply with the enforcement of the Arkansas Fire Prevention Codes. There is no change to the fee structure in the building code.
Any questions of Mike on this?
Mike, it may be helpful too to mention that we won't actually have these online, but there are certain copies that are kept here at City Hall as well as the library.
Yeah, absolutely. We cannot put those in your packet in full because they're copyrighted products. But we do have additions in this building that you can come and check out if you need, or there are additions available at the public library. So.
Mike, earlier this year, we were giving waivers to STR applicants because of the inability to get windows.
Yes, sir.
And I assume when you start talking about the codes, I kept thinking about the windows. And where are we at on monitoring the?
I think we've got that down to about 12 to 15 out of the 40 already completed, done, and everything. We're doing about 1 or 2 inspections a week on those. So people, as they get them in, they called us, so we're getting those done. We ask them to not try to renew their license until they get the windows in, or we will turn them down and they'll lose their license. So as time progresses, their license will be due in April 1 or whatever. Then we'll have them done, or they'll lose their license. But everybody's doing their best to comply. We had one person ordered all new windows for the house. They came in the wrong color. They went ahead and had them installed because then we could pass it. But now then they're going to have to rechange them out because the window company sent the wrong color. We've had a few glitches on their side, not ours. But, and then we've had people, couldn't get it. It was such a custom window that they actually hired a skilled craftsman to come in and make the window and trim it out. And it's one unit, swings out, encasement worked. We've had 2 of them do that. So there's ways to get around it and still meet the code, and we're working with those people, absolutely.
I'm happy to hear that they're working to comply.
Yeah, yep. Every one of them are. They've been keeping us in contact. Hey, here's my contract. My windows will be in 14 days. And so they're talking with us, so it's good.
Very good.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions of Mike? Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Mike, what does this new code look like for current business owners? as it relates to the previous code? Would there be any significant upgrades that need to take place?
On the building code and
to
stuff,
be
the
in
biggest one
compliance?
that Chief Davis and I have found, it's actually in his fire code, so I'll let him talk about it.
Okay.
Existing buildings are covered under the Arkansas Fire Code, which is Volume 1. There are significant changes to it. You have to remember that the Arkansas Code that we are currently under, or were currently under before the first of the year, was actually promulgated in 2011. It's referred to as the International Fire Code, International Building Code of 2012. So, and just to kind of give you a little background on that, I sat on the ICC Southeast Code Consultation Group, and we helped work on the 2012 code. So your code that we had up until the first of the year was kind of ancient. State of Arkansas didn't update it very much. So yeah, there's some significant changes, especially in the fire code, from 2012 to the 2021 code that the state has adopted. And so, we'll try to put those together in a punch list for y'all. But mainly, they are around life safety issues concerning sprinkler systems in large-scale assembly occupancies, the implementation of sprinkler systems in high-rise buildings, things of that nature. Most of them are retroactive clauses that just concern, the experience of the users. There's been some large-scale fires in some high-rise buildings that weren't sprinkled, that were kind of horrific. And we're all familiar with some of the assembly occupancy fires that occurred in buildings that were not sprinkled, where we had a high number of deaths. And so, that's the reason why these changes occur. There are other minor changes in the fire code as well. Fire Marshal and I have been reviewing those, and we will try to make you as informed as possible on those.
Very good. Thank you.
I'd also point out that the fire code that's been adopted by the state is the law of the land, okay? What we are permitted to do as a city is to take slight variations of that code and apply it to our particular circumstances, one of which is the Thermal Basin Fire District that we have, the other fire districts where we have special rules that are particular to the unique situations that exist there. So it's not as though we are imposing new regulations on building owners. This is the law of the state.
It's a very good distinction, Counselor.
Yeah, as Brian said, this is just giving us, once you adopt it, then me and my team and the chief, we can enforce the code legally. If you choose not to adopt it, then we cannot enforce it. The state will step in and enforce it for us, because it's the law of the land.
Director Webb?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Brian, thanks for pointing that out. I guess the other question I have, and yeah, I think we all want to be respectful for what is considered the law of the land, so there isn't going to be any argumentation there. I'm just looking out for those businesses who might be required to provide some unforeseen budget expenses to be in compliance with these codes. So would there be any availability of grants per se as it relates to being in compliance that these business owners could apply for? And
That's
how much?
possible, but it's probably not something that the city or the state would be funding. There are some private sector grants that are available out there, primarily from certain manufacturers, but it would not be something that would, be able to augment at a high level. We're talking about, something that would be like maybe $1 on 1,000 or something like that. And that's just selected manufacturers that do that. Not all of them do it. The one thing that I would say on this, though, is that, we, and I hope that we did this, during the Thermal Basin first round that we did, I think folks were kind of surprised in the fact that the fire department worked with people, and we did it over a series of years. And we'll do these things over a series of years as well. We won't go into a business and say, hey, tomorrow you have to have this done. We'll work out plans with people. We're reasonable folks, and the one thing that we always want to do is support the economy and also support businesses and, keep folks from going out of business. And the last thing I'm going to do is come and do something that's going to destroy someone's livelihood, unless it's just a have to protect lives. We'd certainly do it then. But, in a situation like this, no, we'll have compliance periods that we'll work with the folks. And I think you'll find we'll be very generous.
Mayor, thank you. Based on your knowledge of the existing businesses and their buildings, what are you kind of expecting to see most businesses being required to do to be in compliant? And what does that cost?
Not a lot,
look
really.
like?
I mean, I think one of the bigger issues that we have to deal with is radio signal coverage in some of the legacy buildings in downtown Hot Springs. You have to remember, whenever you have poured concrete, and we refer to it as a monolithic pour, those things really eat up radio signals. And so we've got to work on that. We've got to find a way to deal with that. Also, there's assembly occupancies greater than 300 persons. Those will all have to have a fire sprinkler system installed. So, there are several occupancies in Hot Springs that will, be affected by that. Certainly don't want to downplay that. At the same time, though, if you have an occupancy that has 300 people in it and you have a fire in it, that's really hard to evacuate that number of people if you don't have a sprinkler system to hold the fire back. There's a ton of case studies out there that were done on tragedies in assembly occupancies, and all of them prove the same thing. If you have a sprinkler system, almost everybody gets out, even for a fire that's growing exponentially. But if you don't have a fire sprinkler system, many times those people are trapped and they die. And the last thing we would want in Hot Springs, is to have something that would occur that would, be a tragic loss of life. I think if you go back and you look at the duck that sank on the lake, that hurt our economy after that. It was a tragedy. It was horrible those people died, but that was a lasting impact on the economy. And if we have a large-scale fire here that kills people in an assembly occupancy like that, it's going to be a tragedy for those people and those families, but it'll also be an ongoing tragedy for the business community as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Any further questions? Thank you.
Mayor, members of the board, that completes your items for your February 7th meeting.
Very good. Well, there again, we'll be formally addressing each of these next Tuesday at 6 p.m. February 7th, right here at City Hall. And be safe this evening. I know that this is tape delayed to the public, but tonight is the 34th anniversary of Wednesday Night Poetry. And I'll be downtown reading a proclamation on that at Collective Coffee. So if you're a poet and you don't know it, come down and spend a few minutes with us.
Does your proclamation rhyme?
I didn't have my reading glasses, and I had a hard time. I gotta go home and get them.
Water everywhere.
Thank you very much. Be safe and be careful.